500 degrees. So I'm going to start this oven and preheat it to 500 degrees. Okay, check the shelves, make sure they're in the right spot. That can preheat now for a while. We'll add our water in a few minutes and we'll show you how that's done. Okay, we're about 15 minutes into the proofing of these loaves. The oven has been preheating to 500 degrees. I just got a notice off the oven that it was there. Now the next step is we're going to put in a container of water in the bottom of the oven to help provide a kind of a steam atmosphere while we're baking. So we'll get some water. We don't want this pan too full because it slops all over when you put it in there. And this is a hot oven. Some of you are saying, why do you not put that in before the oven preheats? It wouldn't be so difficult to handle. And the reason is I don't like to have the pan go dry that might that amount of time. Okay, now I usually start the preheat over again just to get it up to full temperature. Now it says 486, so it was at 500. It cooled off enough while that door was open to drop 13 degrees. So this necessitates a second preheat. And we'll preheat it each time we open the oven. Okay, we've had roughly 40 minutes go past while we've been proofing our bread. These are the loaves. They're rising nicely, or proofing nicely, depending on your point of view, I guess. And the oven is ready to go. So we have one more step. We're going to score the top of these loaves. Just using a common razor blade. This just breaks the surface of the loaves so some of the steam can get out, and it makes kind of a decorative finish to the loaf. Provides more surface area too while it's cooking, baking. No regular pattern to that. They're just supposed to be rustic loaves anyway. Lay that down there, and they're going in. Put the first tray in, and then the second. And we'll preheat the oven again. Cancel, upper oven, bake, 500 degrees, start. Should drop down to 30 degrees that time. Now we'll wait for about 15 minutes. The idea is we'll take the trays out, turn them around, and change shelves to get even heat over them as they bake. Okay, that timer says that it's time to switch our loaves from one shelf to another and turn them around in there. One of the things you should notice as we bring these out is how they have risen in the oven. That's a term called oven spring, and it's especially pronounced when you have high hydration loaves like we have here. So set those up. Turn this one around. Set it on the upper shelf. It's important to judge those loaves right now about how fast they're cooking, and you can tell by the temperature, the color of the loaves. These look like they're cooking fairly quickly, so I'm going to only let them in for 10 more minutes and we'll check them and see how they're doing. Again, we're preheating because we opened the door and we want good constant temperature in there. It dropped down 60 degrees that time. Now the other thing to notice is we brought out a rack to put the loaves on, and they can sort of air dry there and cool off. And we're going to let them cool a good deal before we cut into them to see how. Okay, it's not quite 10 minutes, but these loaves are looking pretty well done, so we're going to bring them out. There's one. And here's the other. Oh. Shut the oven off. And look at these beautiful loaves. They've grown up quite a bit. The oven spring was pretty substantial, and they've browned nicely. I think they'll be excellent. We're going to take them out now and put them on the drying rack. That's the 3 Kalamata loaves. And the plain ones. If we're really frugal, you could save these parchment papers and use them again, but I'm not that frugal. Well, that pretty well finishes up this video about baking of Grandpa's bread. A couple of comments to finish up. I have still not decided if I like the wet counter better than the dry counter. That plastic piece that we had that we were rolling out dough on this morning was actually a little bit awkward. Now, what's that? Oh, that's my timer. One other thing to mention is we were talking about how the various pans could be used and so on. This dough is incredibly flexible. I know a lot of people that use it for pizza. I've used it myself for calzones and pizza. It works just fine. It can go in the refrigerator and you can peel off a part of it to bake a loaf at a time if you need to, or leave it in there for a good long time to develop a lot of flavor, however you'd like to do it. It's a good place to start. Lots of opportunity to experiment and play around and see what works best for you. So with that, we'll wait for a few more minutes until this cools down and slice into it and see what it looks like. I've been letting the bread cool down for about an hour now, so it's time to cut a piece of it and see how it's doing. Surface to cut on. There we go. We're going to cut a little bit of each one of them, each of the kinds here. First one we'll cut at is this one. Very nice. And we'll cut a piece of the Kalamata olive. Also pretty good crumb. Now, these are going to taste great. I mean, it always does. I have no fear. You know, of all the mistakes we made going through this and struggle, and I was running back and forth to the camera and everything, it still came out good. It's not completely foolproof, but it's very forgiving. And it's a good place to start on your bread making adventures. With that, I'm going to sign off and enjoy some bread. I had to come back for just a minute because I cut into this bread, put some butter on it, and it is just plain tasty. Really enjoy it. I hope you will too.